Let's start the video with a small note. That is, when there is a change or correction to what is presented in this video, we will update it in the description. So please keep checking the description as well before you proceed to the video so that you will know what are the latest changes. Okay, now let's move on. Welcome to TestTube, the knowledge feast. In this channel, we create the content that educate others. The mission is basically to gather like-minded people of different platforms and create variety of content at one place. So if you are also want to be a part of it from any corner in the world, please drop an email to sharetesttube@gmail.com. Previously, we have discussed about the overview of Postman tool briefly. Now in this session, we are going to discuss about how to work with get, post, put, patch and delete requests using Postman tool. And even before we go and talk about it, I'll recommend you to go through a video which will introduce you to the REST world. This is very informative video and it is very generic. So whichever tool you are going to use to test the APIs, let it be Postman, let it be Catalan, let it be SOAP UI, or let it be the QTP which is UFT now. So any Postman tool, let it be REST issued also. So any Postman tool, any API tool which you use to automate, or any manual testing that you carry out for the REST APIs, this session will be very useful. So go to my channel and go to the playlist. So under the playlist you will see a playlist for REST issued for API testing, and there is this first one, understand the REST world. So this is meant for Catalan Studio REST API automation series, which I am going to do now later sometime, but since I haven't started it, I kept the video over here. So but anyways, this video is universal, so you can refer it to anybody who is working on REST APIs, either it is manual or automation. You can refer to this one. I'll just show you. So you can see there are a lot of vocabulary that is used here. So we are discussing very briefly about all these words and in a related manner, not just randomly we are discussing it. There is a color code which is followed, so the ones which are having the same color, they are connected in one or way, and the connection is also explained. This is beautifully designed video and very informative, and you will understand the entire REST world by going through this video. So before we start this particular how to test with get, put, post and delete requests, first go through this video, very informative one. So I'm not going to repeat some of the words which I'm using in my video, such as resources and URI, which is uniform resource identifier. So I may not be explaining the words in the video which I am going through. So if you don't understand any of the words which I'm going to use, it will be like confusing. So first go through this video, then you will not have a feeling that you didn't understand some of the words which I am going to use now. Work with these requests. So before we start about how to work with those requests, let's first try to understand briefly what is an API looks like. So how does the request looks like? So I'm using the word request, so I'll also use the word response. So for somebody who is new, who want to understand what are those, it is better you refer to that video first and then come here. Okay, so this part, normally when somebody sees this part, they'll be familiar with this one, and they call it as URL, which is a web URL, which is nothing but used to identify a web page or used to navigate to a web page where you want to go through stuff, right? So in REST or in the API world, we call it as URI. In particular in the REST world, we call it as URI, which is uniform resource identifier, something similar to URL. So this is the URI part, and let's break down this URI into three parts further. So if you see this entire URI up to this point, we can call it as base URI, or the server. You can call it as server, where the data is placed or the resources are placed. So when I am talking about resource, that is again a new word for somebody. So again, that is discussed in the video which I have shown. So let's move on, assuming that all of you are familiar with all those words. So right, this part is base URI of the resource or the URI, and this part, which is API slash user, this part will be the API which you are going to test. So in this entire part, this is the API which you are going to test, and the coding for that API is done and kept in this server. So you can change this server. For example, you can keep another server. If you have deployed all the APIs into that server, then that will become your base URI, and this will still be the same API which you are going to use it. And you can notice the question mark. So anything that comes after question mark, that will be a query parameter. Query parameter means like using this parameter, you can navigate through the API data resources whichever are stored in relate to that API, and you can fetch different records. So in the other words, you can say that it is going to be your search criteria. It can be associated with an or and conditions. There are many parameters which you can pass in as query parameters, using which you can give a pinpoint request and pinpoint guidance to what kind of data you are looking for. So this is how about understanding the URI in totality, and along with that there will be a header part and authentication part, and these are the common methods that we are going to go through, which is get, post, put, patch and delete. And I am going to use reqres.in. So how do I remember this website is requestresponse.in. So that's how I remember it, so that I don't forget, recrest.in, otherwise if it is familiar to you. So these are variety of requests which are sample here. So I'm going to use these in this video. So these are all get requests, get list users, get single user, get single user not found. So you can see the different response codes and the sample response over here. So I'm going to use this one for the video. Now let's get back to the Postman tool. Okay, this is how a Postman tool looks like. So this is my collection, a sample collection which is already prepared. In the coming videos we will discuss how to prepare a collection and all, but in the overview I would have explained already what is collection means. So this is my collection, and these are my sample requests. We are going through get requests, post, put, patch and delete. So now let's talk about get users. So in the overview you might be knowing it already. This left pane is place where you can maintain the APIs in a collection, and this is the pane or the section where you can create your request. So if you notice it, these are the methods which you can do it. To create a new request, you have to click on plus button. So I'm closing it. I clicked on the plus button already, and once you click on plus button, you will get to choose the method which you want to. Now I am going to use the get method, and I copied this URL from that website which I have shown. I have copied okay, 1 minute. So here you will see this is the API. So for this particular resource, this is the API. For this particular resource, this is the API. For this particular resource, this is the API, and all these APIs are placed in this particular server, which will be our base URI. So I have told you, right, how do we construct the URI, a base URI followed by the API request with or without the search parameters. So the same way. So I took this API, I wanted to test this API, so I took that API from there and I copied this search parameters. So in short, I can say that I am going to test this one, and preceded by the base URI where these APIs are deployed. Right. So now this is the URI part. I have prepared the URI part. The get request is all about retrieving the data. So it doesn't need any additional parameters. It just needs which API you are calling to look for the data, and if you want to mention any search criteria, mention the parameters after the question mark. Okay, so that is how you prepare the basic get API. So you can name it with something. So I have named it as get users. And now let us try to understand the various other parameters in this get request. So we see the parameters part. You can see the parameter is coming here. So something which is coming after the question mark is called as query parameters, I told. So you can see the query parameters key and value. So this is the key and this is the value which you are passing. So this will be like key equal to value. If you have some more parameters you want to add, you can add something and you can give a value like 3, and this will be appended in the request. You can see that. So now you are looking for some data which is matching, like which is in page 2 and satisfying this condition. So that's how you can keep on adding more parameters, and you can disable if you don't want that to appear in the list. So that's how you can do it. You can even delete it just like this. So yeah, so this is how you can change the query parameters. Now the authorization part, we'll discuss more about the authorizations, different types of authorizations available in later sessions. The header part, so this is the part where you can pass in some header parameters. So here in this case this will be a sort of user ID and password. So for example, if this particular request needs some authentication, there are different ways to authenticate a request. One is by using a simple username and password which can be passed to the header parameters. So here you can mention the header parameters. There are already by default there will be some header parameters which you can see here. It's talking about other parameters of connection, accept encoding, accept. So these are all security related header parameters. Now we don't have to discuss about it, so let's just go on. Let me hide this. Okay, these are the parameters which I have passed for this particular request. And the body, so body doesn't come into role in case of get request. This come into the role in case of the post request and patch and put request. So the pre-request scripts, this is all about coding stuff. So you can give instructions on what needs to be done before you run this request. And tests are nothing but the place where you can write some codes in order to do some certain validations after this request is run. When a response is received, you might need to want to do some validations. You can list out the validations here. That will be part of automation. Settings, this is very generic settings. You can just go through the settings, and based on your project and based on your developer suggestions you can enable the SSL certification or disable it. Similarly the other fields. Okay, so this is how a get request looks like basically. So now I have prepared my request. I am going to send the request. So I send the request and I got the response here. So you can see the response, it will be same as what is shown in that website. So you can just cross check, but okay, let's leave it now. You can see the status 200, which is okay, and you can see the response time here, and you can see the response size, which is 1.83. You can save the response if you want by copying it and saving it in the CSV file. Okay, so you can go through this response and validate the fields whichever you wanted to validate. And you can see over here, this is a pretty format and this is the raw format of the response. You can see how the preview looks like, and visualizing the response is different concepts which we'll discuss later. And there are various statuses. We'll discuss various statuses and what status will appear in what case. We'll discuss some of them now when we are talking about other requests also, post, put and patch and delete requests. For get, when the request is successful you will get the 200 response. So that's all about how to work with get request. Now let's go to post users. So this is again another API which I took from the same website. So I have built the API request. I just copied the URI, and you just have to select the method which is post method. Okay, so let's go back to the website just to be so clear. Here you will see the post request here, which will be for creating some resource in the URI, creating resource of this request. So post method, this is the API, and the response is this one, what you are going to expect, and this will be the response code. Okay, so the same thing, I just copied and prepared this API, and this is the post method, and we can see there it is taking these parameters. Forget, you see that it is not there. So like I said, get doesn't need any body because it's just about reading something, and all the instructions are already given in the URI part. So now post. So post needs a body to be sent because you are going to create some entry or create some data into a resource. So when you're talking about creating something, you have to give instructions of what needs to be created, what sort of data need to be inserted, what sort of record that has to be inserted in a database. So which means that you are going to pass some data, and how do you pass the data? Through the body. So this is the body. So post request needs a body to be sent. We understand that. So all the others are same as the get request, like parameters. Okay, it doesn't take parameters because parameters comes into picture when you want to retrieve some data and you want to give some instructions. Authorization, yes, same thing. Headers, if you need to pass some headers, you can add key values for of those headers. Body, which is most important for the post request, so you have to pass all the details which you are going to submit to the server as part of the post operation. And this will be a JSON formatted. A JSON format is nothing but like the data which you are entering in a key value pair with a curly braces, open and close ones, and each key value pair is separated by comma to pass multiple sets of data. So this is how you prepare the body. This is same pre-request script, tests and settings. So now I'm going to create an entry with this data. So I just have to click on send button. So now it has returned me the response, like this data which I have passed in the body. Sometimes it depends on how the developer has designed. The developer may design such a way that the response will just show that an entry is created. That's all. That is enough. In this case, the developer has designed such a way that it is showing what you have inserted. Along with that, it is also showing when this is created. Okay, and the ID which is generated as a result of it. You can see that you didn't pass the ID over here. So with these details, it also has created an ID, and that ID is used an unique identifier for that entry in the database. Okay, so it has returned the ID and the created time in the response. So this is one thing which you can validate as per your testing, and you can see the status code as 201, which means that it is for created. So post normally returns 201 if there is a successful entry creation in the database or resource is created in the on the server. So that is all briefly about the post request. Now let us go to put request. So this is again similar to post request. It will have the body and also it will have the URL where you want to proceed the put request. All the other parameters are same. Patch is also similar to put, same. It has the body and all the other parameters are same, but there is a basic difference between put and patch user, slight difference, and how they are going to be different from post user, because they are also having the body, post user is also having the body, right? The basic difference is post user is to create a new entry altogether for the first time. So that new entry, so that is when you use a post user. Put user and patch user are basically to modify that entry which is already created and there in the database. And in the modification also there are two things. You can modify the data using patch user, or you can modify the data using put request, put and patch request. And the basic difference between these two is patch and put. You just try to understand the literal meanings of these words. Patch means that you are patching something in addition to what is already there. So that means like you don't have to worry about, for example, this is your post request. It is having name, job, username, status, password, and confirm. And here you just wanted to update the name. Let's say, for example, if you want to update the name and you want to keep all the other details as it is, what do you do normally is you'll just update the name. So that's exactly what patch is going to do. For example, if you just want to append or amend the existing data of name and job for this particular user, name and job, to a different name and job, what you have to use is patch user. So it will just update those details and it will not touch the other details. That is how it is going to work. In case of put user, what it is going to do is again you want to update the name and job. So in this case, for put user, even though you just want to update name and job, you actually have to keep the entire request with the updated name and job. So that is how you have to do it. So okay, I am not keeping the entire request because they have designed in this particular server that put user will work on only with these two parameters. Okay, so ideally what I have to give is I have to give this entire request. So I have to copy this entire request and keep it over here, but with updated name and job. Okay, and all the other parameters I have to give as it is and then run the request. So I am not going to run this because it will return the error, because this particular API is not designed in that way for this case. Okay, but in general that's what it is. So that is the difference between put and patch, and when you run it, it's like they'll give the similar response like okay, this is updated. Similarly, patch user, send response, okay, status is 200, okay, this is updated. So that's all. Both will work similar but with a minor difference, and they will work similar to post user, but only difference is post is used to create an entirely new resource or new entry in the database, but the other two are used to basically to modify that particular existing data. Delete user, I mean the delete request, as the names itself says, it is to delete the particular entry from a database or delete the particular set of data from that server. Okay, similarly you select the delete request, keep that URI, and the other parameters are optional, not optional, like I mean you don't have to pause the body obviously to give an instruction of deleting something. So in this request what it is going to do is it is going to delete the users in the second page probably. That's how it is going to do. So click on send request. So if it is success, it will show something, it is success 204. So the response, it will show if the developer has developed a message saying like a record is deleted. In this case the developer has designed to show nothing, that's why it's not showing anything. So that's all about how to work with get, put, post, patch and delete requests using Postman tool. So thank you for watching the video. Thank you for watching the video. For more videos like this, do subscribe to the channel and share it to your friends. You can also visit the playlist in the channel, and those who like to read the content can visit the blog forversTales.blogspot.com. And for any queries or you want to join us, drop an email to sharetesttube@gmail.com. Bye for now. Stay tuned for more content.